My brother's message was blunt. Don't show up unless you've done something useful before Christmas. On that very day, my parents approached me about covering his loan. My response? A single cent, accompanied by the snarky comment, "Best of. Luck, champ." A week later, he extended an invitation to a peace dinner, emphasizing, family must stick together. Little did they know, I arrived armed with evidence, proof he'd forged my signature for a $600,000 loan. I had stared at his initial text for a full minute, trying to grasp its meaning in just 10 words. It felt less like advice and more like a dismissive slapper, passive-aggressive command disguised as brotherly concern, devoid of any real context. That same day, still wrestling with a mix of amusement and disbelief at his audacity, my phone rang again. It was Mom. I didn't even need to open the message to feel the familiar tension in my chest. I knew that tone, the one that precedes a soft-spoken guilt trip. Her text read, "Sweetheart, your brother's mortgage payment is due. He's so stressed. Can you cover this month until he gets back on his feet?" I sank back into my chair, eyes fixed on my cold coffee. My brother Anel, the perpetual golden child who effortlessly dodged responsibility, was once again in a bind, and naturally, it fell to me to bail him out. He'd just bought a flashy, overpriced new house 2 months prior, clearly beyond his. Means I knew it, our parents knew it, and frankly, even Anel knew it. But he was determined to flaunt his success, to prove he was doing better than me. I opened my banking app, navigated to my emergency fund, and instead of the $2,100 they'd subtly requested, I transferred exactly 1 penny. My accompanying message, "Good luck, champ." The ensuing silence was glorious. No phone calls, no angry texts, nothing. A week later, Annel's dinner invitation arrived, expressing a desire to make things right before Christmas and emphasizing that the family should stick together. My parents echoed the sentiment. Mom even invoked the spirit of forgiveness as the ultimate seasonal gift. I took my time responding. I wanted to see just how far this performance would go. So I showed up. The house was elaborately decorated, with twinkling lights, candles, and festive platters. Everyone was already seated when I walked in. My old leather satchel bag, I never brought to family dinners, clutched in my hand. Anel himself opened the door, a wide grin plastered on his face, as if the evening's narrative of reconciliation was already predetermined for the family highlight reel. We exchanged small talk and uneasy smiles. Dad clinked his glass, delivering a toast about unity. I waited. Then, just as the turkey was placed on the table, I retrieved a cream-colored, thick, and silent folder from my backpack. "I figured you'd want a copy," I stated, sliding it across the table. They all stared at it as if it might detonate. It didn't. The contents, however, were another story. I didn't need to explain the folder. The bank's fraud department emblem was conspicuously displayed on the first page. It was my name, my signature, but it wasn't mine. 6-figure loan I'd never applied for, linked to the address of Annel's new home. A profound silence enveloped the room, as if a bomb had just dropped. Even Annel's restless twins quieted. My father, his hands trembling, reached for his glasses and opened the folder. Though his expression suggested he already knew its contents, Annel's forced smile evaporated. "I think you know," I replied, my voice calm and steady. My mother gasped, flipping through the pages. "This must be a mistake. There's no way. Anel, tell him this isn't." But Anel remained speechless, his gaze fixed on the documents, blinking as if trying to magically alter their reality. "This is a bank notification," I clarified. "Apparently, I co-signed on your mortgage, except I didn't." Dad looked up, bewildered. "That can't be. Must have signed something. Maybe you just forgot," I scoffed. "Forgot applying for a loan I never needed? Forgot signing away 6 figures in debt for a house I'd never live in?" I paused, fixing my gaze on Anel. "Let me guess. You used one of those old power of attorney documents Mom had me sign when she had her surgery? The temporary one you just happened to have a copy of?" Annel's mouth opened, then closed. It was going to be temporary, just needed help qualifying. "The bank was being impossible, and I thought you thought I wouldn't notice," I interrupted, leaning forward. Anel became frantic. I was going to fix it. We just needed to get approved. Once I refinanced, it would be in my name alone, I swear. My signature, I stated. A small smile playing on my lips was used without my consent on official documents. At that, Dad slammed his hand against the table. "Stop it, both of you," his voice boomed. "This is Christmas. I don't care what happened. We're not doing this here right now, right?" I retorted. "Because we never do it here. We don't talk about how Annelle has been exploiting me since we were teenagers. We don't talk about how you all portray me as some kind of Scrooge because I refuse to bankroll his every poor decision." My mom's lips trembled. "That's not fair, isn't it?" I countered. "Let me refresh your memory." I ticked off points on my fingertips. Freshman year of college. I dropped out because you asked me to help Annelle pay off his car loan after he totaled the one you bought him. 2 years later, I co-signed for his community college. He quit after 1 semester and stuck me with the debt. Then, when he got evicted, who paid that deposit? Who gave him a job at their company, only for him to steal from petty cash? Dad looked ready to interject, but I wouldn't let him. And through all of it, I continued. You kept repeating the same line. "He's your brother. He's just figuring it out. Be patient." Well, guess what? He's 34 now. How much longer does he get to figure it out on my dime? Don't act like you're so perfect. Enel suddenly blurted, his voice rising. "You always thought you were superior to everyone just because you had your act together and didn't make mistakes." I turned to face him directly. "I don't think I'm better, Enel. I just stopped expecting someone else to clean up after me." "You don't understand the pressure," Enel retorted. "I had to show I could build something too. I needed this house. I needed to prove I wasn't just some loser. What you did might be considered fraudulent." He ran a hand through his hair. "No, I mean, it's not like that." My mother attempted to grasp my hand. "We can fix this. Let's not ruin the holiday." "Ruin it?" "What?" I laughed, a hollow sound. "The holiday was already ruined the moment you all sat here pretending like nothing happened. Like you didn't just ask me for money right after telling me not to come unless I was useful." Dad's jaw tightened. He didn't mean it like that. Was stressed. "He meant it exactly like that," I affirmed, "and so did I when I sent him a penny." Turned back to Anil. "You have 30 days to remove my name from that loan. I've already contacted a lawyer in the bank. If you don't act, I will, and you leave me no choice but to pursue legal action." I picked up the folder, placed it back into my backpack, and walked toward the door. No one tried to stop me. No one said a word. And so, Christmas came to an abrupt end. I hadn't initially anticipated things escalating to this degree. I genuinely believed I could simply walk away, allowing them to contend with their own guilt, if any truly existed. But you don't grow up in a family like mine without recognizing established patterns. Sure enough, 2 days later, the calls began. First, "Mom, honey, can we talk? My brother's going through so much right now." Then Dad, "Son, I think we need to sit down, man to man, and sort this out." And then Anel himself. He had the nerve to send me a video message, sitting in his half-decorated living room, feigning tears, wine glass in hand, like a scene from a tragic movie. "Look, man," he choked out, "I made a mistake. I panicked. I thought you'd never say yes if I asked, and the bank was breathing down my neck. I was desperate. But it's still me, your brother. You'd really report me over this." I watched the screen, in utter disbelief. A mistake? You don't accidentally complete a multi-page mortgage application in someone else's name and forge their signature. You don't inadvertently saddle your own family member with 6 figures of debt. He was playing his familiar role. Anel, the misunderstood idealist. The guy with perpetually good intentions who just never quite succeeded and whom everyone always excused. Everyone, that is, except me, not anymore. "So," I replied with my own. "Videocom direct, no theatrics. I've already filed the legal issue report with the bank. They're opening a formal investigation. I've submitted handwriting samples, a timeline, and email evidence. You have 10 days to remove my name. That I escalate it legally. No more metaphors, no more let's talk about it, just facts." The situation intensified. The following night, they appeared at my apartment, heard a frantic pounding on the door before I even switched off the TV. Through the peephole, there they were, Anel, Mom, and Dad. I didn't open it immediately. Dad shouted through the door. "This isn't how a family handles things." That line actually made me laugh aloud. I had to cover my mouth. Mom's voice followed. "Please, sweetie, we can't let this destroy the family." Then Annelle chimed in. "You're really going to ruin my life over some paperwork? You're not perfect either, that was it." I opened the door. The three of them looked as if they'd just been caught pilfering from a church donation box. I said nothing at first, just stood in the hallway, the cool night air brushing against my legs. Finally, I spoke. "You already destroyed the family. I'm just acknowledging it." Dad stepped forward. "Son, be reasonable." "You want reasonable?" I countered. "Let's discuss what's reasonable." I pulled out my phone, tapped a few times, then held it up. "This is the recording of Annelle asking me not to show up unless I'd done something useful. Want to hear it again?" Their faces collectively dropped. "And this," I added, switching to another app, "is the email I received from the bank confirming the forgery. It's admissible." Annelle was sweating now. "Come on, man. We're brothers." I met his gaze squarely. "Brothers don't steal from each other.
Brothers don't lie."
Brothers don't drag each other into financial messes like this and then try to frame it as a misunderstanding." He opened his mouth to protest, but I cut him off. "You're going to walk to your car right now. You need to inform the bank about the issue and take steps to fix it. You are going to have them remove my name. And if I don't get a signed, notarized release form within 10 days, I go to the police." Mom gasped. "You wouldn't. He's your brother." "Oh, I would," I said, my voice steady. "I'd sleep like a baby." "You'll break this family," she sobbed. I tilted my head. "There's nothing left to break. You just don't like seeing it shattered." Then I made my final move. I reached into an envelope taped to my doorframe and handed them a copy of my lawyer's certified notice. "Suing Annelle for gross negligence and damages, including emotional anguish. You made adult choices. Now it's time to take responsibility." They stood there, transfixed, like statues. Then I closed and locked the door. That night, for the first time in years, I didn't grind my teeth. For the first time in years, my phone stopped ringing. No more daily guilt trips from Mom. No more gaslighting voicemails from Dad about family values. Annelle sent no more passive-aggressive texts with misspelled words or sad emojis. Just silence. And let me tell you, stillness is profoundly addictive. Initially, I braced myself for the inevitable fallout. A police call, or perhaps the bank entangling me in bureaucratic red tape. But none of that materialized. What actually happened was Annelle cracked. On the 5th day after I sent the legal letter, I received a call. Not from him, he lacked that courage, but from his realtor. Apparently Annelle had panicked and listed the house for sale. She politely inquired if I'd be willing to sign a release of interest to expedite the transaction. I informed her I'd be delighted, just as soon as Annelle finalized the notarized documentation to remove me from the loan. A fair exchange. Within 24 hours, I received a notarized, signed, and stamped PDF. A clean break. I was out. But that wasn't the true victory. The real triumph arrived when Dad appeared at my office. He didn't call or text, simply strode in one afternoon as if he owned the place, looking approximately 20 years older than I'd ever seen him. I was in the middle of a client meeting. My assistant attempted to intervene, but he pushed past her and barged into the room. "Son, we need to talk." My client blinked. "Should I?" I nodded. "Take 5. Dad closed the door behind him and surveyed my office as if it were an exotic, unfamiliar world. As if he'd suddenly discovered his youngest son had achieved something substantial. "Didn't know you had this setup," he remarked, scanning the shelves. "Looks professional." "It is professional," I confirmed. He nodded but didn't sit down. "Your mother's not doing well." Ah, there it was, the sympathetic angle. "She's upset," he added. "I think you've gone too far. We all do." I remained silent. He pressed on. "Annelle is talking about moving out of state. Says you've poisoned the family against him." "No, I haven't." "Spoken to a single relative about what happened," I stated. "If they're turning against him, that's his doing." Dad finally exhaled. He's still your brother. He crossed a serious line. He flinched. We raised you better than this, he stated softly. You used to be forgiving. I used to be weak, I countered. There's a difference. Another silence descended. Then he leaned forward. She cried, You know, your mother, real tears? I bet she did. After all, it's difficult to watch the family begin to stand up for themselves. He looked up. I was tired. You're angry. I was. Now I'm free. He stood slowly. We were trying to hold things. Together. No, I corrected. You were trying to hold me together so Anel didn't have to carry anything. And then I finally articulated what I'd wanted to say for years. I'm not your insurance policy. Not your second paycheck. Not your plan B. I'm your son, and you treated me like a resource. He offered no response, just stared at me as if he'd seen a ghost. I'm not coming back, I explained. I'm done playing the good son. He left without another word, and something profound within me exhaled. My lawyer secured a non-disparagement provision, preventing Anel from publicly airing his grievances on social media. The post he'd made about being betrayed by family vanished overnight. Through the grapevine, I heard the house sold. Just barely. The market had cooled, and he incurred a loss. Then the messages started trickling in. An aunt, I had no idea what he did to you. If you ever want to grab coffee, I'd love to catch up. Another aunt. Just know, not everyone believed his version. I hope you're doing okay. Even my ex texted. Took guts to do what you did. I never saw that strength in you before. I didn't reply to most of them, but I couldn't help but grin. That's what happens when you stop playing the villain in someone else's redemption tale and start writing your own. I moved to a new place, not far same city, but with more light, larger windows, clean walls. No ghosts of the past lurking in. The corners? I bought new furniture, not secondhand. Nothing borrowed from my parents, nothing burdened with 1,000 strings attached. It was all mine. I started sleeping better, eating healthier. My therapist even commented that I seemed lighter. And here's the truly surprising part. I began mentoring a neighborhood kid smart, bit awkward, perhaps overly eager to please. He reminded me of myself at that age. One afternoon, after we finished working on his resume, he looked up and asked, How do you get so good at boundaries? I laughed. 30 years of learning the hard way, but do you want to hear the real? Full circle moment. Last week, I received a wedding invitation. Not Annal's, thankfully. It was from one of his ex-girlfriends, a woman he'd ghosted 3 years ago after she told him she was pregnant. It turns out the child was his, and she'd raised the kid alone. She'd found me on LinkedIn. Message read, You were always the decent one. Thank you for never treating people like tools. You probably don't remember it, but when I stayed for dinner that night, he did the dishes while he watched TV. That moment stuck with me. I wasn't sure what to say, so I said nothing. I just sat there, holding the card, letting the tranquility wash over me. Because the truth is, I won. Not with vengeance, not by shouting, not by burning bridges, but by walking away while they were still holding the matches. I used to believe that being the good one was the ultimate goal. Keep your head down, help when asked, don't complain, don't question, keep giving until someone expresses gratitude or you feel deserving. That falsehood shattered the day I sent Anel that single cent. I've spent the majority of my life carrying obligations I didn't create, paying for decisions I didn't make, and absorbing blame like an emotional sponge for a family that never once asked how I was doing, and for what. Respect, love, belonging. I received none of those. What I received was a forged mortgage application, a holiday guilt trip, and a seat at a table where everyone knew I was being exploited but said nothing. Not anymore. Not again. Something fundamentally shifted about a minute after I said no. It wasn't just how others viewed me. It was how I viewed myself. I stopped apologizing for my limitations. I stopped second-guessing my instincts. I stopped trying to rescue those who had abandoned me to drown the moment it became inconvenient. And something extraordinary happened. The weight lifted. Literally lost 20 pounds in 3 months without even trying. And my shoulders stopped aching. My jaw stopped clenching in my sleep. It turns out carrying a full family's dysfunction on your back is far heavier than it appears. I began rebuilding, both financially and personally. My apartment is modest but peaceful. I chose each item within it with purpose. No hand-me-downs, no gilt furniture, nothing bought with blood money or bribes. I bought a tiny espresso machine because I enjoy coffee, not because someone told me I needed to cut back to pay for their bailout. I joined a boxing gym, not to fight someone, but to remember what it feels like to stand firm. Gradually, the right people started appearing in my life. My neighbor invited me to dinner with his family. I felt awkward at first, waiting for hidden agendas or pointed questions. But there were none, just delicious food and laughter. One of my coworkers gave me a Christmas card and remarked, "You've been different lately. Lighter, happier. I hope it's permanent." "Me too," I replied. My family went quiet for a while. Then the calls began to trickle in again. Mom started with that quiet voice she uses when she wants to pretend nothing happened. She asked if I wanted to come to Easter brunch. I asked if Annelle would be there. She replied, "Of course." I replied, "Then I won't." Then Dad called. He said he missed me, that the house felt empty without me. I asked if he missed me or the version of me who never said no. He hung up. Annelle never called, but I heard through the grapevine that he moved in with a buddy once the house sold.
Nice.
He even started a podcast about repairing your life after betrayal. The irony almost killed me. Eventually, they stopped calling altogether.
Ow.
The silence became a profound blessing. But the true ending, the one that resonates most deeply with me, arrived on a random Wednesday. Rain tapped gently on my balcony as I was reading when a letter slid through my postal slot. No return address. I opened it. Inside, there was only one typed page. "You accomplished what I never could. You said no, you walked away. You showed the rest of us what was possible, thank you." It's no name, but I recognized the sentiment. My cousin, maybe my aunt, even one of Annelle's exes. Someone still trapped in that toxic orbit, witnessing my escape, and realizing they, too, could break free. I gently folded the letter and placed it in the drawer where I keep reminders of who I used to be. Then I poured myself a drink, not to celebrate, but to remember. Because healing doesn't mean forgetting what they did to you. It means no longer needing them to admit it. It means no longer begging for affection that should have been given unconditionally. It's about becoming the person you were born to be once you stop bleeding for everyone else. I used to believe the worst thing that could happen was being cut off from my family.
Ow.
Now I see that not cutting the cord would have been the ultimate disaster. I live the truth, and the fact is simple. I'm not their wallet. I'm not theirs at all. I belong to myself, and I'll never go back. Not for money, not for peace, not for remorse. Close the chapter without a single look back.